The keys that unlock prosperity are a bit surprising, at least to me, over time as I discovered and uncovered more of them, which is there's no right way, but there are keys. There's a consistency around what works and what doesn't work. Um, Louisa, how do you use these keys to unlock prosperity for you, and how do you define them?
I love that question, and I love that, it's the beginning well, it's the middle of January as we're discussing this because I feel like a lot of people have the, "What am I gonna do in January in order to set up my year?" Right? The gyms have been super busy, you
Oh
can't even
yeah, I
get
bet.
in, and everything about
Mm.
or, like, everybody starts really, really great. And what do the keys look like? To me, is consistency. Sticking with creating habits and building them and then sticking with them. So to me, that's what it is. And can I share a story
Of course.
on this? Because I thought about this yesterday. I don't know if you're seeing this because I am. Everyone's like, you know what? I want to cancel my membership for 2025 because I'm already in my 14-day trial period and I don't like it. So I want to cancel my membership for 2025. It's not what I want. Right. And I remember taking a class and they said,
You're talking
okay,
about at the gym?
no, for 2025 in general, like, I
Oh,
don't
just
like this
people are
year.
canceling
Everybody
stuff.
got excited that they were like, 2025 is my year. It's gonna be the greatest of
Yeah.
what we're doing. And then 2 weeks in, it sucks.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, it
Um,
just sucks. Like, the
yeah.
fires and devastation and
Okay.
horrificness is happening in 2025. So, like, that big old cheers, let's get excited for, like, this is gonna be my year, is flopping. So it made me think of a story when I was taking a class and they said, "What are you committing to? Do you remember your commitment? So no matter what happens, you're gonna like stick to your commitment, right?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "You got this, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." No matter what happens. Okay, I'm in. Well, 15 minutes into what we were doing, I stopped liking what we were doing. 30 minutes in, I really didn't like it.
Mhm.
35 minutes in, I'm now officially throwing an adult tantrum. Like, I just didn't like it.
That's right.
And I'm close to laying in my seat obnoxiously, and the coaches come up to me and they're like, "Remember your commitment." I was like, so an hour later, it was complete, and what I got was I forgot my commitment, and I
Mm,
forgot that it doesn't go just because I said yes, and I thought it was supposed to go smoothly, like, yeah, I was committed when I got what I wanted,
yes,
and then it wasn't what I wanted, and I no longer played, and how you do something is how you do everything,
yes.
so what do you do when it doesn't go your way?
And what's exciting to me about the past couple years was how I don't think like that anymore at
Right.
all, like, ever. And I look back and, I realized I actually never really thought like that, but that's what always happened. So what always happened every time I had an idea, "Oh, I want this instead of that," and I'm going after it, it became disastrous in practice. So as I
Right.
got into the market, often actually sometimes I'd have a big success and then the thing would collapse. And then the real work began. And then because I f- I leaned into the collapse and jumped into the deep end of another pool on the other side of the yard, I got some stability out of what came next.
It's so true. It's so true, and I love that you said you were never one of those people. Funny part is, when I got aware of being one of those people is when I got to shift because one of the things that I learned in the class was it's not bad that you have done that or I have done that, right? Or that I saw that about myself. The the gift was seeing it and not doing it again.
That didn't
Like,
happen for me for years. So I've never been like that. I've never been one of those people. I always go to the hardest thing, always. And the problem with it for me was the cost of destroying everything around me didn't matter as long as I pushed through. And I remember when I started getting into sailboat racing, I called the guy the old man, and he taught me how to race. And he'd been out in Lake Michigan forever, forever since he was a kid. And he was really, really knew what he was doing. His son was the best racer in this one design fleet I was in. And he's like, I'll teach you how to race, but you got to clean the bottom of the boat. But we don't, but he didn't want to pay for the oxygen tanks.
But it
So
goes
I,
back to what you were talking about this program, right? Like, I wanna do this, but there's technology part, there's this, there's that, and we all have what we do, and whatever we want to get out of everybody else, then we contribute what we do, and
yeah,
then the gift is in that. It literally you brought it right home to what your program is.
I didn't realize I was doing that. And it's how you do one thing is how you do everything. And every experience in my life has been exactly the same, even though it appeared different. And I remember a moment, I was a couple years in on his boat, and somebody was just looking at me and they're like, relax. I was
Yeah,
a maniac, and I'm not a good sailboat racer, but I can drive the boat fast. Like, I'm good at driving the boat, but the kind of stuff I was trying to do, I'm not good at it, but I didn't care. I kept doing it anyways, but I cared a lot that I couldn't get past the hump of not being good at it. So that whole wrestling match with myself taught me what I needed to learn later to do this now.
right. I still believe we all come with this magic fairy dust, and our purpose is going to come through whether we go kicking or screaming or in a
Yeah.
peaceful way. So, whatever brings you the most joy, like if you like doing things hard, you're going to make them hard. My motto is I live on vacation.
You do,
So,
yeah.
I,
You're
I,
the
I don't
opposite of
work.
me, but you're helping me get there. That's right.
I live on vacation. I
Yeah.
choose the easier, softer way. I will show up every day and do my habits. So, it's not like it's not like I eat bonbons and watch Netflix, so that's not my easier, softer way. I just choose to do what I love, and I know I do a for example, let's say I have to clean my house, right? I know if I take a 15-minute nap, I'm gonna clean it so much faster because I've now been rested. To do it, muscling through it, I'm just gonna shove things in places because I don't want to do it. So I listen to what my body first wants, allow it to get what it needs, and then do still what I'm going to do, but with ease.
Oh my god. When we first did the first my first money clarity session with you, and you were talking like that, and then you got deeper into some other stuff with me, my resistance to that was so intense. I'm like, "No, make it harder, god damn it.
I know.
It can't be this easy. I don't want it to be this easy. I want it to be really hard."
Yeah. And we can have it however we want it.
But it wasn't working because, I'm married and I got a lot of shit to do. So, if you got, $100,000,000 in the bank and you wanna peak performance, optimize yourself all the time, there's a cost, and the
Absolutely.
cost is relationships,
Mm,
and that was the cost. And what you helped me do was not only unlock the prosperity feeling deeper, which is what money's about, because money follows the prosperity feeling and thoughts and body openings, but it got me to the point of this idea of flexible founders mode, of it doesn't have to be hard.
it doesn't. And it's with a twist though, right? Like I saw your post the other day. It said, "Do
Which
the
one?
harder things first," right? And
Yeah.
that's actually gold. So I when I was taking hot yoga the other day, somebody said, "Do the hard things first. If you do the hard things, your life is easier. If you do the easier things, your life is harder."
When I read, Ray Dalio's book, Principles, I mean, I probably spent a good 8 months listening to Ray's book and then reading the book and then doing the workbook, and now I don't need it anymore. So it's a raft. I'm on the
Right.
shore, I don't need it anymore. But what he got me to, and then his YouTube videos were good too. And then I started trying to learn the economy from him, and my brain got scrambled, so I gave up on that. But I got the basic idea of what he was talking about. But anyways, the idea of first and second and third order consequences was the key to it. And I was
Mhm.
always doing that anyways. But to really understand it helps me be able to share it with other people and teach it too. And what he's saying is the first and second order consequences is required and to get the third order consequence. And that's like, well, maybe it's not my zone of genius or whatever the hell that means, but it's what gets me into a state where I don't have to do that or feel that anymore. I get past it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everything gets easier as you do it, right? Like, I remember listening to James Dixon on stage. The absolute motivator. He's
Yeah.
a remarkable speaker and human in the world. And he was talking about how he accidentally enrolled himself into doing a marathon. He thought he was doing a
Accidentally.
5K, and it turns out it was a marathon. And he only found out when he actually arrived at the location and the guns going off. And I was like, "Well, if he could do it, I could do it." And so that week and he said, "Oh, yeah, I'll highlight you, Louisa. If you do it, I will highlight you and I'll follow your journey and blah, blah, blah." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this because I want James to highlight me," right? Like,
Yeah.
what is my motivation? I want to be highlighted by James. So I decided I'm doing a marathon.
Yeah.
I go outside and I ran like half a mile, and I thought, "This sucks. I don't wanna run half a
It
mile."
sucks. Yeah. Oh my God.
And and then I gave up. But then I look around and everyone's like, "That's not how you prepare for a marathon. You don't just decide you're walking outside and running on your own. There's like
Yeah.
a whole procedure to this." I didn't know it. And that quickly, I was done with the entire thing and decided it wasn't happening for me until I met other people who go, "This is how you prepare for a marathon." And there's a team, there's group, there's support, there's a procedure.
I never
You
do
don't just
that.
run outside and go,
I
"I
never do
got
stuff.
this."
I never do stuff like that. Like, so years ago when I was with my ex-wife, I was in my 20s and I was in a banana republic and there was a book called Ride Your Bike Across Latin America. And she grew up in Europe and Colombia and stuff, but her ancestry is Chilean. And I was like, let's go down to Chile and ride our bike across the country. And she's just like, are you a complete idiot? You know what it's like down there? She said, it's great. She says, we ended up driving around the country years later, but in a car. And I'm like, I wouldn't let it go. I'm like, no, we got to do this. And so we bought these mountain bikes and we started going up to Wisconsin where they actually have hills, unlike Illinois. And we started training and she's into it. She's finally like gave up. She's like, all right, I'll do it. But she's like, not in Latin America. So we're riding in Wisconsin, 30 miles, 40 miles or whatever. And then I'm like, I think we're ready. And we booked a trip to Spain and we tried to ride across the Pyrenees. So we started in San Sebastian and the idea was to get to a town called Girona and then go down to Barcelona. And there was a moment, and you have these granny gears, the topographical map is showing like 3 little hat arrows and it's like really steep, and she just looks at me and she's like, you're a fucking asshole. So I was like, all right, this is not working. So we went out of the mountains down to Pamplona and we got stuck in Pamplona because they had a baggage handler strike. So it's like the bikes can't go, but you can go. Like it's this crazy story. And I look back and I'm like, that was awesome.
Right.
That trip was awesome. Now, did I train my ass off to do? No, I was not prepared to do that. And it worked out because it was fun. And then we hung out in Spain for a while in her dad's apartment.
It's the journey. Everyone's so all about the
I
destination.
know.
It's the journey. In all fairness, what I love about what you created is the new people I've gotten to meet who are on a path very similar to mine. And what we were talking about yesterday was these imprints, right? Like you have an experience with someone and it downloads this imprint in your body that goes, "Ooh, that felt good." So far, everyone I've met on our team is just good, just a
Good.
great human.
Yeah.
And so, how I personally get energized is being around amazing humans.
Yeah.
So that's what you've created.
Yeah, best in the world was my goal 5 years ago. I wanna be the best. Well, it's always been that, but, like, I wanna be the best in the world at the product that I'm delivering, must be the best in the world, and, Elon Musk there's a good Elon Musk story in this, and, when he built the Tesla on the Lancia chassis, and he's caught in the web of this insane supply chain in the auto industry. He looked at the output and he's like, this sucks. We're not selling this. And everybody's like, no, you can't do that. We're going to run out of money. He says, we're doing it. I'm not selling a $70,000 car that looks like that. I've been like that my whole life. And I didn't allow myself to go all the way because I always looked at the outcomes and the money. And I
Yeah.
thought, there's the fear. So the fear was, what if I run out of money? But I had never cared. But as I got older, it started to matter. And that's part of being married. That's part of being in the United States where everything's too expensive. And that's part of, buying the
Being a
lifestyle I
father.
bought. I bought an expensive lifestyle, not a fancy one, but we live in the place we want to live in, and everything is expensive.
It is, and it's always gonna be. I mean, think about, right, the ability to stretch. We all think we can't do something, but then we do it.
Yes.
You know, if you have 1 child, you really take care of 1. You have 3, you take care of 3. You always figure out the way to stretch.
Yeah.
And when you put what's in, for example, look what happened during COVID, the things that we were able to create from
I
nothing.
started this during COVID.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. If it wasn't for COVID, this probably wouldn't have happened. Well, it may have, but it
I
was COVID
know.
that got me going.
Yeah, I know I would have never, ever been able to do what I've done
Yeah.
if it wasn't for COVID. I physically, having ADD, I could physically not sit in a classroom. I'm
Yeah, me
just
neither.
not capable of that.
No.
Unless you find a horse tranquilizer, and I physically don't sit well.
Yeah.
And the ability to study online and to work online has changed my life.
COVID was so amazing, because I looked around and I'm like, "Oh, a crisis." So I'm thinking about the 30s, and I'm like, well, people are gonna be creating new businesses now, and they're gonna work because of this disaster. What do I do? And I started thinking of it as, what's my Rocky Road ice cream? And I started doing that in 2018 before COVID. So I wrote a book on revenue generation. I was trying to take lead generation, marketing, outbound sales, and create it in one company. So I was working on that for a long time. And then in 2020, I'd already been online, really, because we had a virtual company and we were using Zoom with video and the whole thing, which now feels like old technology to me. Won't do Zoom meetings anymore. Um, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, something's going to happen here. And I was reading about Rocky Road. It was a Depression era ice cream. They'd only had vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. And they're like, why don't we put some nuts in it? It was something like that for the folks, who are like feeling bad. They're on a rocky road. And like, that was Dreyer. His name was Dreyer. He's German immigrant, of course. Got to be an immigrant.
Got it.
Gotta.
That's the thing. There's always, always, always opportunities is if we're looking for them. But when you're in the daily grind and the hustle, you miss it because you're so tunnel vision, being all about waking up, hustle, hustle, hustle. But when you're in grace and ease and peace, opportunities show up. What I love about not being a really phenomenal student is I was looking for the easier, softer way within the circle of what was happening because I had to, like, I was a scrappy little kid. I was always trying to figure it out. And and the common denominators that I've seen, so a friend of mine hasn't been working for 2 years now. She's just kind of laying low, but within laying low, she's like, if there was a situation right now that I had to actually physically take my cat and go, there is no to-go litter container. It was like there was no to-go litter container. In the last 6 months, she created it. And she actually is now in like a whole bunch of stores doing all,
Yeah.
and now with all these fires and all these things, it's it but it comes when you're actually in peace and not in the crazy hustle of survival. So allowing ourselves the gift of knowing the journey, the grace, the peace. Mistakes happen when we're hustling.
I knew this was going to work 100% 2 years ago. And nobody else did. and told me, no, it's not going to work. And by running away, I had a 1,000 member list, 90% unsubscribed. I became the Wicked Witch of the West, got rejected. I got thrown out of a community. And nobody signed up for my pilot and paid. And September 20th of 2023, nobody signed up except 5 people showed up, but they couldn't pay. And I'm like, all right, let's do something here. And I'd already done a beta throughout the year, and some of those people paid, and I had to give some of them their money back. I went to people and I said, how was this worth it to you? Someone was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I was like, I'll give you some of that money back. I still have 2 more people I'm going to give money back to. But that whole thing came from doing it, not my opinion about how it would work or following somebody else's playbook. I learned by creating my own curriculum.
Right. Right. And you know that sentence, do it before you're ready.
Yeah. People say that, but then I look at what they're doing and I'm like, you read that in a marketing book.
Yeah.
Or you found
Well,
that in a marketing program. But they're saying it, but they're not actually doing it.
100% because they're afraid. You know, we were talking about this the other day. Like, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you trip and fall, what is the first thing you're going to do? Be terrified of who just saw you. You don't even know anyone there. But if we're so
Mm.
afraid of what people are going to think, and we're so afraid of being embarrassed. And I was thinking about this recently. You know, not being I joke about this. The only A plus I've ever had next to my name up until now, because I am a 4.0 student at school,
Yeah.
was my blood type. Like, the only A plus I've ever had next to my name.
Your blood type. I
Yeah,
love
so
it.
I'm a A positive, and I totally remembered the moment when I was giving birth to my son, and they're like, "So you're an A positive." I was like, "Oh, that's my first A plus."
Wow.
So imagine when I got an opportunity to co-write the 13 books, I
Mm.
was like, what type of a student who does not get an A plus co-writes 13 books? But I was so committed to being part of that team, being part of like Reading, Think, and Grow Rich, and co-writing this phenomenal opportunity that I took it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was willing to be so uncomfortable in growing it, and I did.
We did a deep clean of our house the last 3 days, and I found a lot of old stuff, and one was a little, thing I wrote when I was, like, 5th grade or something, for school, and it was like, "My best friend is Eric Seelinger," and, I like him a lot, and I looked back and I thought, "You know why? He was 1st fastest in 3rd grade, and I was 3rd fastest, and I wanted to be 1st fastest." So I picked the kid that I liked who was faster than me because I wanted to be 1st fastest, and I never got there. And it's been like that my whole life, where it's like turning my back on the hierarchy, particularly the male hierarchy, was the key that opened all these doors. So I want to go back to this thing because we're promised something on this call, but in the podcast, but the keys that unlock prosperity, how to use the keys to allow prosperity flow. So we're starting here. I'm reading the about section on LinkedIn. So the 5 keys that unlock the door to success will not come by copying me or Louisa. That's the problem. Do not do what we do. Do what you do. It'll be right. It won't work when you look outside of yourself for answers, period. There's no argument on that one. If you want to make an argument, go ahead, but it's wrong. What does work, because it doesn't work like that. Sorry.
No.
What does work is finding what resonates. Resonance, I think frequency resonance is one of the most important,
Mm,
least understood concepts in the society.
million percent. Million percent. I when I was in the dating world, this gentleman once said to me, "You know, Louisa, you keep picking people that you want to help, but the person who you want to be with doesn't need you. And so they're not out there looking for you. So when you start to vibrate at a higher level and not look for the broken ones, you'll find the right one." And it was so true because I was so busy vibrating at like feeling the need to help people
Mm.
that I kept attracting that. Like, we're attracting what we're looking for.
And the hilarious thing about it is saw this like a couple days ago. So I don't know if it was YouTube or Instagram, but it was one of these very wealthy, because I saw the castle in the photo. So it must be, and the car's in the front, and how to manifest and how to vibrate at a higher frequency. And she's got a whole weekend and retreat on this. And I'm like, you don't need to know how. You already know how.
Yeah.
Just be yourself and it'll work because it works automatically. You don't need to learn how to manifest things or vibrate at a higher frequency.
Oh, totally. One of the thoughts that I 1,000,000% remember is as I was getting divorced, I was like, how am I going to do this? I've now been in a relationship for a very long time. I've been co-living my life. How do I now go and do it alone? And I remembered, I was like, well, if I was a scrappy little kid who figured it out
Yeah,
then, just become yourself.
that's it. So when I got divorced from my first wife, now I'm single, successful city. So I'm working in this cool marketing communications agency, and I had no idea how to meet women. No idea. I did not pick up a book, How to Meet Women. Now you could do that, and I probably would just to see what it is and get a few tips. But instead, there was this guy who worked there. We became really close friends, and we hung out in Chicago for a few years. And I met some beautiful women and dated women, and it was great. It was fun, but I had to do a lot of this first order consequence stuff, and I'm not going to get into all the stories um, because there's a lot of them, and I don't think I should share that here. But the way to do it for me was to know I'm good at lead generation and prospecting.
Yeah.
Use that.
We all have what we're really good at. And speaking of what we're really good at, it's so funny because what I really, really wanted to do that always wanted to come through me, but that I was terrified of was speaking on stages.
And now
I
that's what you're
truly felt
doing.
like, yeah, now I've been doing it, but I literally was like, I signed up for to become a hypnotherapist because I wanted to use that so I could get myself on a stage. And I was like, and if I succeed, then I know this work works.
Yeah.
I had no idea I was actually going to be great at it. I just wanted to get myself on the stage.
Yeah.
And turns out I actually have a skill, and turns out it works because now I've been on stages and I get to do more of it, and I love it. Like, what I was terrified of, I actually get energized and love, but I would have never known that had I given into, "But I'm scared."
It's amazing. Like I spent my whole life doing lead generation, business development, how to get customer stuff. And I own a sales outsourcing company, but my passion is building great products. So all that stuff led to building great products. And now I don't have to I meet with for people with partnerships, but I don't want to go to another lead generation thing or networking event for the rest of my life. And I'm not saying don't go. It's just I'm not going to go. Brian's doing it. So I'm going to read this because we want to finish this. So Larry and Louisa share their unique approaches that led to both being fully who they are in the world after a long journey of becoming happy, satisfied, and free from burdens. There is an arrival moment. So Brian and I were talking about it yesterday, where it's called being and being, not becoming. And that happened. So I wrote the 5 keys from my perspective. You're sharing your approach. You can learn more. I put your site up on I put your Facebook,
Perfect.
facebook.com/hair by Louisa. Awesome. Um, and then my version is in a LinkedIn newsletter from Sunday. The 5 keys exist inside you already. You know the answer. It's a matter of looking carefully. I won't explain the keys, but they're easy to use. Um, and you get full access to me and Louisa along with everybody else for 1 year on the campus with that membership. But you can come for 7 days and hang out with us to see if it's right. We don't use funnels and cash registers. We've got we'll make you money version if you're broke, or in transition. And we've got another, well, you got to pay us if you do this version. So it's up to you. It's just not hard. It's actually easy. What is hard is removing the old thoughts, beliefs, and barriers. That's not easy. And that's a different subject. Guess who's causing the friction that's blocking you from this original topic, the keys that unlock prosperity? Who's causing that?
Yep. It's such gold, but it's daily consistency. It's showing up, being around people who it doesn't have to be hard. You get to do this living on vacation. Just do what you love.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually that simple. And, like I love it said hair by Louisa. I became a hairdresser
Yeah.
because that is a natural thing for me, and this is just the natural progression. So, like, everyone who is listening, there's a reason why this caught their attention.
We're out of time, but I want to end it on one thing that's really important is I do not have the money in the bank right now to just do whatever I want for the rest of my life. And that's important for people to understand. You do this, or I did this before all that money comes in. Now, I'm not saying I don't have money because I've saved money since I was in my 20s and IRAs and stuff, and I've loaded up. I have plenty of ways of getting money uh, through funding things, but I have never taken money from another person to fund what I do because then I have to return that to them with a multiple, and I will refuse to do that. Never done it. And second, I leapt off the bridge without the big bank account. So people talk about these big bank accounts, and I'm like, yeah, that'll come, but you got to do this first.
Yeah. Well, just to touch on that, I know a lot of very, 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 very wealthy people, and none of them feel, well, I
You
from
live
all
in
my
LA,
experiences, no one feels
yeah,
like they have a ton of money in the bank, even if they are
even if
super
they
rich.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you live in LA, and
Yeah.
it's like I got 500. They'll say, well, I got 500. Oh, you remember Episodes? Did you ever see Episodes
Mm-mm.
with Matt LeBlanc, the guy from
No.
Friends?
No.
Hilarious scene. So it's these two English screenwriters or script writers, and they pick up the LA studio picks up their screenplay because it's great and it is a hit in England. A hit in England means they didn't make a ton of money. And Matt LeBlanc plays the main character, and they don't want all the stuff that's going on. They're like ruining the screenplay, but they're in LA now, so it's like they go along with it. And there's a scene where Matt LeBlanc gets into some scam, like a Bernie Madoff scam, and he's like, "I just lost $30 million," and they're the two screenwriters from England are like, "Oh my God, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to have to sell the vineyard. I'm going to have to sell the drone and the helicopter." And they're like, "Wait, what?" And he says, "Well, I still have 30 million." I'm like, "You have $30 million? What's the problem?" And he says, "Well, I lost $30 million." And he's like, "How much do you guys have?" And they look at each other and they're embarrassed now. They're like, "Well, we got like, I don't know, like a couple million." And he's like, "You only have a couple $1 million?" Or he said, "Oh yeah, you're English."
Yep. I I being in people's homes, you really do see, everybody has the same exact feelings.
Yeah.
We all have the same fears, very similar. It's every day we all are making it, just making it through the day.
Matt's character had to get over the loss, which to him was a real loss. It felt like a loss. And the two English were going through a lot because they liked LA and they wanted the money. So you could look at that as a moral thing of like, well, the money's bad and the English were good. No, that's
Right.
not what they were saying. It was like they were in that
Yeah,
experience going through the first order consequence of, oh my God, I like LA and there's a lot of money here and it's awesome. And I like
right.
being famous, that stuff. I like the lifestyle. And then Matt's like, got to get rid of this thing of I have to have all this money in the bank to be happy.
There's no I mean, right now, look at how many people lost their homes, right?
Yeah.
There is no promise. There is no promise that you're gonna keep everything you have,
No.
and there is no guarantee of anything. We all have our relationships, and we all have community. We're building our tribe, and all we have is this very moment of connection, love, and rebuilding kind of together. Because the world is showing us it needs us to pay attention and to wake up.
Wake up. And nobody can take away from me what I have now. Nobody. There is not one person in the world that could do anything to me and take away from me what I have.
Yeah,
And that's Elphaba and Wicked Witch of the West, scene, the dance. I can't stop thinking about it. That dance scene where she just went out there and they laughed at her and they put the funny hat on her and the whole thing. And she's like, she went through the pain of it. But then look what happened at the end of that scene, the act.
yeah,
And I'm like, yeah, that's how it works.
mhm, absolutely.
See you later today, I think.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Have a beautiful day, everyone.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
you. This was great